Alright everybody, how you doing? Chad Wesley Smith here for JTSStrength.com. We're bringing you a Squat 101. Fortunate enough to have a very good strength athlete with us here, Chase Carnes, who's the runner-up in the 200-pound weight class at NAS Strongman Nationals this year. So thanks for helping me out today, Chase. So first off, why is the squat so important? Well, besides just generally making you awesome and being the coolest lift that there is to do, if you want to run faster, jump higher, hit harder, improve any of your Olympic lifts, CrossFit skills, squat, strongman events, the squat is what has the highest transfer to all of those from any gym lift that you can do. So obviously that's the one that we want to improve the most. Olympic lifters, they're great squatters. The best CrossFit athletes, they're great squatters. You want to be great in the yoke, stones, overhead pressing, all need to be great squatters. And if you want to have a great powerlifting total, the squat's going to be what has the biggest influence on that. So I'm here to just give you like a ground up tutorial on how I coach the squat, on how I squat personally, and Chase is going to help me do that. So starting with the stance, Chase, just getting like a jumping stance. All right. So this is how I start. Someone who has never squatted before, or who I have never seen squat before, I don't know anything about their lifting background, is I get them and just feet like they're going to jump. All right, and then from there they just do like a little dance move, kind of. They go out with the heels, then out with the toes. Go ahead and do that for me. All right, and for the most part, that's going to set people into a. That's going to set people. Go ahead, go back to the jumping stance, Chase. So he's going to go out with the heels, out with the toes. All right, and that's going to put people on a little bit wider than hip width, maybe shoulder width stance, with their weight distributed well. And obviously, as you become a more experienced lifter, it can change from there. But that's a real easy way if you work with athletes, with younger people who are just new to lifting. That's a real easy way to have them set their stance up properly. So once you have your athletes feeling comfortable with that stance, the most important step to a great squat technique, to being a great squatter, is a great setup. If you don't set up well, nothing after that's going to go well. So first thing that I always do with the setup is your hands. Right? I want the athlete to get their hands as close as they possibly can due to their shoulder mobility, so that they can keep their elbows pulled together and down. So you can see Chase's elbow position here is allowing him to have real great tightness in his upper back. And the easy cue for the athlete to feel this is just if you squeeze their elbows in. So what I'm teaching the guys is they want to pull the elbows in and forward. All right, in and forward. What that's going to do is flex the athlete's lats. And the harder their lats flex, the more supportive their back is going to be under a heavy load. Go ahead, relax for a second. The other thing that having the hands close like that is going to do is create a great shelf to the bar. Let's say it again. So I prefer, people talk about high bar squatting and low bar squatting. I'd say that I prefer a medium bar position. So it's not way up on top of the traps. It's not halfway down the back, like a geared squatter. It's right in the meat of his traps. So he's got the elbows tight. All right, which is creating a great shelf for his upper back. All right, shoulder blades are pulled together, his traps are flexed, and the bar is sitting right in the middle of his traps, right in the meat. All right, and from there, this position should be uncomfortably tight. All right, hopefully Chase should be hating me that I'm making him stay there for so long. That should be an uncomfortably tight position that you don't want to stay in. All right, squatting a ton of weight is not a comfortable thing. The setup. Effective setup is not a comfortable place to be. Go ahead and relax, Chase. All right, so once you've taught your athletes a great setup through the elbows being tight, a great shelf in their upper back, all right, as close as possible hand position with the elbows pulling in and forward to flex the lats. All right, the next step to the squat is a walkout. All right, so Chase is going to go through that good setup. All right. Important when you unrack the bar. All right, every facet of a great squat is important. You want to think about unracking the bar with your hips. All right, a lot of people tend to get in there and do like a little half squat. Whether your rack is set too high, or rather too low, or too high, they end up doing a calf raise, which you definitely don't want to do. So you want to only have to squat the bar maybe 2 inches out of the rack. And you want to bring that out with your hips. So Chase is going to take big air into his belly, push his abs out, and just up with the hips. Real short movement, all right? And the walkout should be about 2 steps, all right? The way that I like to do it, go ahead and go back into the rack, Chase. The way that I like to do the unrack is to step back with the dominant foot, then set your off foot, and then set the dominant foot. So it's a three-step walkout. Good. So he's going to go back with his dominant foot. All right. And he's going to set that left foot, and then, you know, if the dominant foot is right foot that he took the first step with, needs a small reset, he can go ahead and do that. All right, go ahead and rack it. And you know, the walkout seems like such a small component of it, but you know, if you're trying to get under 600, 700, 800, 900 pounds and walk that out of the rack, really important thing. Luckily, you know, Chase is a really good strongman, so he walks with really heavy yokes, which is a great, if you have trouble unracking heavy weights and feeling comfortable in your walkout, doing some yoke walks is an easy way to get adjusted to that. Because, you know, I've had, in my strongman contest, I've had to do a 1075 yoke for 60 feet, and I don't think I'm going to be raw squatting 1075 anytime soon, so no unrack should be an issue. Heavy walkouts and walkout and hold is also something I've used in my training before I got into strongman. You know, loaded up whatever I thought my goal for the meet was, maybe 5% more than that, walked it out and held it for 10 seconds. And that's just something that's going to make you feel more confident being under a heavy weight. You know, if you've been out there holding it for 10 seconds and you get to your meet and have to unrack it, it's not going to feel that heavy anymore, and it's going to be a better psychological boost. All right, so now that we got Chase through you know, boring stuff like stance, setup, and walkout, we're actually to the real thing now, the squat. All right, so Chase is going to go through that good setup. All right, walkout that we just went through.
You're breathing like this all the time. When are you going to get a chance to recover? Your body's on a smile 24 hours a day. You're going to feel like ass. Yeah, I mean, if your body.
Right. And the first thing that he wants to do from here, all right, he wants to draw air into his midsection. You hear a lot of people talk about drawing air into the belly, all right, which of course is important. But if Chase draws air into his belly, all right, what's going to happen to him there is he's going to go into lumbar extension, which we don't want to do. What you're going to try and achieve is circumferential expansion, or I call it 360-degree pressure. All right, so he wants to breathe air into his belly and into his back, so everything expands, trying to make his waist as wide, as large as possible. All right, so all you skinny guys squatting out there, you got to try and make yourself look big and fat like me, so you can squat more weight. All right, so once we go through that circumferential expansion, what I want Chase to do is flex his glutes and then unlock the hip back. All right, it's a slight move back. You see, go ahead, back the bar. Just as a bodyweight squat setup. So you see a lot of times people being cued to push their hips back, but as soon as Chase does that, push your hips real far back, he's adding length to his hamstring, all right? And that's going to make it much harder to hit depth, because as you're going through the eccentric phase of the lift, you're lengthening your hamstring, but because he's already lengthened it at the start by pushing his hips back real far, he may run out of length in his hamstring and have a hard time hitting depth. All right, so what I want to do is fire the glutes. What that's going to do is create a neutral hip position, and then from there, real slight, just unlock the hip. All right, and from there, all that's going to do is get Chase's weight back onto his heels. All right, and from there we're going to squat straight down. All right, go ahead and stand up. So we're going to fire the glutes. All right, we're just going to lock in his pelvic position, and then unlock the hips back and squat straight down. So all the time you'll hear the cue, you know, back, 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 back. You're hearing geared lifters yell at each other, all right? Geared squat and raw squat, it's not the same thing. It shouldn't be coached the same way. All right, so Chase is going to lock it. Go ahead. All right, all right, so Chase is going to take big air into his midsection, circumferential expansion, 360 degrees of pressure. He's going to fire his glutes. He's going to unlock the hip. All right, as he squats down, he's going to about forcing the knees out the whole time. All right, You do not want to force the knees out to the point, though, that your weight is on the outside of your feet, all right? You want to remain with 3 points. You want to remain with 3 points of contact throughout the lift. So Chase, do a bodyweight squat for me, and really emphasize going face me, and really emphasize going knees way out, get like on the outside of your foot.
Like over exaggerated?
Yeah. All right. So that knees way far out cue, you can see the Chase's weight is through the outside portion of his foot. What we want to do is be able to keep 3 points of contact: the big toe, the little toe, and the heel. All right. So yes, he is going to force his knees out, but it's not so drastic that his knees are wider than his feet. All right. I like to keep the knee in line with the pinky toe. So go ahead and do that. All right. So it's right there. And do just like 2-3 reps with the bar. So we got good setup, elbows in and up. Brings the bar out with his hips. He's going to take circumferential expansion. He's going to sit back and then down. So the hips go back, then the body goes down. He's forcing the knees out over the pinky toe. All right, and as those knees go out, it should create tension in the hip. All right, go ahead, rack it, Chase. So I'm talking about creating tension in the hip there. Really important part of the squat. You should think of the eccentric phase of the squat as basically a loading, like you're a spring. All right, so we've now covered the stance, setup, unrack, and descent in the squat. All right, so now comes the part where it really matters, the ascent. All right, the actual lift. So Chase, go ahead and get set. Chase is going through, getting good tight upper back position, close hands, elbows in and up. He's going to bring the bar out with his hips, 3-step walkout. Circumferential expansion, unlock the hips, hips back, body down. All right, pushing his knees out through the whole lift. Keeping knees over the pinky toe. All right, the ascent of the squat. The last thing to move on the way down is your head. The first thing to move on the way up should be his head. All right. So as he goes down, he hits the hole, he's going to drive his head back into his traps, all right? That's going to force his chest up. Another key thing to keeping your chest up tall, all right? The other key thing to keeping your chest up tall through the lift, all right, besides just forcing the head back into the traps, is to flare your elbows forward. So get your hands set. So as Chase is set here, and he's coming out of the hole, you want to think about the elbows are pulled tight at the back, and we're going to push them forward. All right, you can see as Chase pushes his elbows forward there, how his sternum raises, all right, and it's flexing his lats. That's going to force his chest up. And besides lack of strength out of the hole, chest collapsing is going to be the number 2 way that a raw lifter is going to miss his lifts. And this is a very simple cue to fix that. Your body angle, your torso angle is going to mimic your arm angle. So you see a lot of lifters, you see a lot of lifters start to miss and their elbows point back like that. All right, their body's going to break forward. As Chase rotates his elbows forward, his chest is going to come up tall, lats are going to flex, and he's not going to miss that lift because he's dumping it forward. So Chase is just going to go through 2 or 3 reps here. So he's got tight setup position, good shelf with the back, bring the bar out with the hips, 3-step walkout, circumferential expansion, unlock the hip, and he's going to squat hips back, body down, forcing knees out the whole time. As he comes out of the hole, he's going to drive his head back into his traps, rotate his elbows forward to flex his lats. He also wants to make sure he's forcing his knees out the whole way up throughout the lift. All right, and that's the squat. If if you're having athletes who are having a hard time learning how to squat, the Goblet Squat is a great tool for that. This Goblet Squat, you're just going to hold the dumbbell or kettlebell up by the end, so it's right in front of your body. When I think about supporting that weight with your upper back, all right, so getting real tight through the upper back, not holding it with the arms, and they'll learn to do that from keeping their elbows tight, right? Elbows tight into their side, and then everything's the same as what we were doing in the rack. So he's going to unlock, he's going to big air, circumferential expansion through the stomach and the low back, fire the glute, unlock the hip, and then squat. Hips back, body down. Hips back, body down. Knees are out, but not so far out that it's turning into the outside of his foot. So the Goblet Squat's a great tool to learn how to squat for any athlete, or a great part of your warm-up if you already know how to squat and you just got to loosen your hips up. So the most common place that athletes are tending to miss, raw lifters going to miss the squat is out of the hole. So two of my favorite exercises to build power out of the hole are the pause squat and the dead squat. So first Chase is going to do a pause squat here. And when I'm training my pause squats, I like to train that with a narrow stance. So maybe about 1 to 2 inches inside of your regular stance. Go ahead, Chase. And when you're doing the pause squats, really bury them. I mean, as deep as you can squat. And he's going to hold for 1, 2, 3. Right? And you can train pause squats for different lengths of time. We'll do a 3-count pause, 5-count pause, 7-count pause even, and go up to as high as sets of 8. But pause squat is not only a great tool to build strength out of the hole, it is also a great tool to teach someone how to squat, because they're going to spend more time in the bottom position, the most difficult position of the squat. They're going to spend more time there. Their body is going to find what the strongest position is, and the more time you spend in that stronger position, the better you're going to get to know it. All right, the last exercise Chase is going to show you today is the dead squat. All right, talk about pause squats to help build strength out of the hole, where most athletes are going to miss the lifts. Dead squat is an even more effective tool, I think, than the pause squat. Obviously, you have to have a power rack to do it. It's more taxing to the body, I think, but a great lift. So the pause squat eliminates the eccentric portion of the lift, that loading up that we talked about. So without that pre-stretch to the muscle, Chase is going to have to be able to just turn it on from 0 to as fast as he can to be able to finish this lift. So to do a dead squat, you're going to set the pins at we'll put the athlete at maybe 1 to 1.5 or 2 inches above parallel. All right, so then you got to get under the bar from there, which, especially for a bigger guy, can be kind of awkward. I like to use a safety squat bar for the dead squats just because I can't get under the regular bar. But if you have the shoulder mobility to do it, the regular bar will work just as well. All right, so Jason's going to go ahead and duck under the bar there. And you see he's about 1 inch above parallel. And from there he's just driving it straight up. All right? Drop back down. Get out from under it. So dead squats always have to be done for singles. All right, dead squats always must be done for singles. Now I'll go up to as many as 12 singles with 30 seconds rest at about 60-65%. And you can also work up to 2 or 3 heavy singles in the dead squat. Also, adding bands to the dead squat is a great exercise. And what I do with that is I put the band over the plate so the tension kicks in right away. And do that because it's so easy in the dead squat, because it's so difficult to break inertia off the pins. A lot of times once you break inertia, the lift isn't that difficult. So people tend to just kind of break inertia as hard as they can and then just sort of coast to the top of the lift. If you add the bands in, you're going to have to finish the lift really aggressively. That's going to be a big help too. So go ahead and give me one more dead squat, Chase. So we're at the bars on pins about 1 inch above parallel. Athlete's got to start from the bottom up. Big air into the belly. All right, accelerate the bar to the top of the lift. That's the dead squat. Great exercise to build strength out of the hole and add the bands into it to teach you how to finish the lift aggressively.